The crash of destiny. The emergency sirens blared as Kai Harrison fought with the failing controls of his research vessel, the Horizon. Sweat beaded on his forehead while warning lights flashed across the cockpit panels. "Houston, come in," he called, desperately into his comm unit. "Mayday, mayday. This is Specialist Harrison experiencing catastrophic system failure." Only static answered him as the ship plummeted through the atmosphere of an uncharted planet. The coordinates made no sense. They were nowhere near his designated research zone in the Andromeda cluster. The heat shields groaned under the pressure as the vessel tumbled through thick violet clouds. "Come on," Kai muttered, gripping the manual override stick. "Just hold together a little longer." With a deafening crack, the main thrusters failed, sending the ship into an uncontrolled spin. His training kicked in as he deployed emergency landing protocols, shutting down all non-essential systems to divert power to the impact. Cushioning. The ground rushed up to meet him, a vast purple landscape of crystalline formations and swaying vegetation. Unlike anything on Earth, Kai braced for impact, his knuckles white against the restraints. When the Horizon hit the alien dirt, it skidded nearly half a kilometer, gouging a deep trench before coming to rest against a cluster of iridescent rock formations. The silence that followed was almost as shocking as the crash. Kai hung suspended in his harness, blood trickling from a cut above his eye as he struggled to stay conscious. Through the cracked viewport, he could see the alien landscape bathed in the glow of a pale blue sun. "System diagnosis," he croaked. The ship's AI responded with a weak flicker. "Life support functional, at 22%, hull integrity compromised, communications offline. Estimated repair time unknown." Kai unclipped his harness, wincing at the pain shooting through his ribs. He needed to assess the damage and find resources if he was going to survive. Grabbing the emergency pack from beneath his seat, he cycled through the airlock, his helmet sealing with a reassuring hiss. The alien atmosphere was surprisingly compatible with his suit readings, showing higher oxygen levels than Earth, but breathable. He took careful steps away from his vessel, surveying the deep gouge his crash had torn through the strange terrain. That's when he saw her. Standing motionless on a ridge about 30 meters away was a figure silhouetted against the blue sun. At first, Kai thought his concussion was causing hallucinations, but as the figure moved closer, he realized he wasn't alone. She appeared humanoid with distinctly feminine features, but her skin was a luminous shade of purple that seemed to shimmer in the alien sunlight. Her eyes were large and entirely silver with no visible pupils. Her long hair floated around her head, as if suspended in water, despite the still air. "Hello," Kai called, raising his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "I mean no harm." The woman tilted her head, studying him with those strange metallic eyes. Then, without warning, she raised her hand palm forward. Kai felt a strange tingling sensation wash over him as the woman's eyes began to glow brighter, human. She said, her voice somehow inside his mind rather than carried by sound waves. "Why have you come to Nemoria?" Kai staggered backward. "How are you speaking to me?" "Telepathic translation," she replied, stepping closer. "I am Arya, guardian of this realm. You should not be here. I didn't exactly plan this visit." Kai gestured to his smoking ship. "Navigation systems failed. I crashed." Arya studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. "No human has ever found our world before. The celestial barriers should have made that impossible." "Well," Kai grimaced, touching his injured side. "Seems like I'm special." For the first time, her expression changed, a slight curve of her lips. "Perhaps you are," she said. "Or perhaps this meeting was written in the stars long before either of us existed." Language of stars. Kai stumbled as he followed Arya across the crystalline landscape. The pain in his ribs made each breath difficult, but curiosity pushed him forward. "Where are you taking me?" he asked, watching as her purple skin caught the light of the setting blue sun, creating patterns that seemed to dance across her form. "To safety," Arya replied without turning. "The night brings hunters to this region. Your damaged vessel will attract them." The terrain shifted from crystal formations to a dense forest of bioluminescent vegetation. Plants that resembled trees glowed with internal light, illuminating their path in soft blues and purples. Tendrils of luminous moss reached toward them as they passed, as if sensing their presence. Your world. Kai began, struggling to keep pace. It's beautiful. Arya paused, then looking back at him with those silver eyes. You find beauty in the unfamiliar that is rare among your kind. They reached a clearing where a structure seemed to grow. From the living rock itself, smooth curved surfaces melded with the natural environment, making it nearly invisible, until they stood directly before it. This is one of our observation posts, Arya explained, placing her palm against a seemingly solid wall. A doorway appeared, revealing a chamber filled with technology that appeared both organic and mechanical. We have watched your planet for centuries. Kai's scientific mind raced with questions as he entered. You've been studying us? Learning, understanding. Arya moved toward a console that pulsed with gentle light. Your species is young but fascinating. As she worked controls that seemed to respond to her thoughts alone, Kai removed his helmet. The air inside was clean, with a faint scent of something like lavender and ozone. Can you help me repair my ship? He asked, setting his helmet down. I need to report back. Earth will think I'm dead. Arya turned to him, her expression softening. I will assist you, but repairs will take time. The technology of your vessel is primitive by our standards, yet complex in its own way. She approached him suddenly, reaching toward his injured side. Kai flinched, but remained still as her fingers hovered over his ribs. A warm sensation spread through his body, and the pain began to fade. How did you? Energy manipulation, she explained. I have redirected your body's healing pathways. Your injuries will mend faster now. Their eyes met, and for a moment, Kai felt something pass between them, a connection that transcended their biological differences. Thank you, he said softly. Arya nodded, stepping back as if suddenly aware of their proximity. You should rest. Your body needs time to recover. She guided him to a recessed area where a platform extruded from the wall, forming what appeared to be a bed. The surface molded to his body as he lay down, providing perfect support. Will you tell me about your world? Kai asked as Arya turned to leave. About your people? She hesitated, then settled beside him. What do you wish to know? For hours they talked, Kai describing Earth, its diverse ecosystems and cultures, while Arya explained the complex history of Nemoria. Her people, the Nemorians, had evolved over millions of years, developing technology that merged with the living planet itself. We do not build machines separate from life, she explained. We grow them, nurture them until they serve their purpose. As night fell outside the observation post, Kai noticed how Arya's skin began to glow more intensely, small patterns appearing like constellations across her arms. Your skin, he said without thinking. It's like looking at the stars. Arya glanced down, seemingly surprised. The bioluminescence increases during our night cycle. It is how my people once communicated across great distances before technology. Without thinking, Kai reached out, tracing one of the patterns on her arm. The sensation was electric, her skin warm and smooth beneath his fingertips. Arya froze at his touch, her silver eyes widening. What are you doing? I'm sorry. He withdrew his hand, embarrassed scientific curiosity. No, she said softly. It's just that among my kind, such contact is reserved for those sharing deep connection. Their eyes met again, and this time Kai recognized something in her gaze that transcended their differences. Something undeniably human, longing. I should check your vessel's location, Arya said, standing abruptly. The hunters may have found it by now. As she moved to the console, Kai watched her, wondering what other similarities might exist between their species, despite the vast distances that had separated their evolution. Perhaps the language of stars was universal after all. Hidden Sanctuary. Morning came with the strange blue sun casting long shadows through the transparent sections of the observation post. Kai woke to find Arya studying a three-dimensional projection of his damaged ship. The hunters didn't find it, she said without turning, but they were close. I've masked its energy signature. Kai approached, standing beside her. These hunters. What are they exactly? Arya's expression darkened. They call themselves the Shadowers, a race that consumes technology and energy. They destroyed much of my civilization centuries ago. I'm sorry, Kai said genuinely. How many of your people survived? The projection flickered as Arya's hand trembled slightly. None. The word hung between them, heavy with implication. Kai stared at her, trying to process what she'd revealed. You're alone? The last of your kind? Yes, she replied, her voice barely audible. For 300 years, I have maintained the sanctuary, preserving what remains of Nemorian knowledge and culture. Kai felt a tightness in his chest that had nothing to do with his healing injuries. How have you survived all this time? Our lifespans are considerable by your standards, Arya explained, shutting down the projection. And I was tasked with protecting our greatest treasures. I could not abandon my duty. She turned to him, her silver eyes reflecting the morning light. I will show you. They left the observation post, traveling deeper into the forest, where the bioluminescent plants grew taller, forming a canopy that filtered the sunlight into dappled patterns. As they walked, Arya revealed more about herself. I was a scientist studying interspecies communication when the Shadowers came, she explained. Our defense systems failed. They consumed our cities, our technology, everything. Her voice softened. I escaped with the repository, our civilization's collective knowledge, and fled to this remote region. 300 years of solitude, Kai said, trying to imagine such isolation. I don't know how you've endured it. Arya glanced at him. We all have our burdens, Kai Harrison. What is yours? The question caught him off guard. No one had asked him that in years. I lost my family in the Singapore flooding disaster. I was off planet. When it happened. He paused, feeling the familiar ache. I threw myself into space exploration afterward. It was easier than facing the empty spaces they left behind. So you understand isolation? Arya said, stopping suddenly. We are not so different, you and I. The forest opened into a vast clearing where a massive structure rose from the ground. It resembled a giant crystal flower, partially embedded in the hillside, its petals forming translucent domes. The sanctuary, Arya said with reverence. The heart of what remains. As they approached, the structure responded to Arya's presence, panels sliding open to reveal an entrance. They stepped into a vast chamber where thousands of crystal orbs floated in columns of light, each containing swirling patterns of energy. These are memory crystals, Arya explained, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. Each contains the knowledge, experiences, and essence of a Nemorian, the closest thing to immortality my people achieved. Kai moved between the columns in awe. They're alive? Not in the way you understand life, she replied, watching him, but their consciousness, their memories are preserved here. At the center of the chamber stood a larger crystal pedestal. Arya placed her hand upon it, and the entire room illuminated with projected images, Nemorians walking through beautiful cities, gardens floating in the sky, children playing with creatures that seemed made of pure light. This was my home, she whispered, before the end. Without thinking, Kai reached for her hand, finding it cool to the touch but warming quickly as her fingers interlaced with his. She looked down at their joined hands, then back to his face, wonder and vulnerability in her expression. In 3 centuries, she said softly, you are the first being to touch me with kindness. Something shifted between them in that moment, the last barriers of alienness falling away. Kai stepped closer, drawn by an irresistible pull that had nothing to do with gravity, and everything to do with connection. Arya. He whispered her name like a prayer. Their foreheads touched, a gesture that felt ancient and new simultaneously. Her skin glowed brighter in response, patterns of light cascading across her form, the air. around them seemed charged with energy. "I never expected this," she murmured, her breath warm against his face, "to feel this way about a human. I never expected to crash on an alien planet and meet someone who understands my soul." Kai replied. With a small smile, Arya's lips parted to respond when suddenly the sanctuary trembled, alarms blaring through the crystalline structure. Her expression shifted from tender to fearful in an instant. "They've found us," she whispered. "The Shadowers have found us." Hunters in the dark. The sanctuary's warning systems pulsed with crimson light as Arya rushed to the central console. Her fingers danced across symbols that responded to her touch. "How did they find us?" Kai asked, following closely behind. "Your ship," she replied, her voice tight. "Despite our precautions, they detected its unfamiliar energy signature. They're drawn to new technology." Through the translucent walls of the sanctuary, Kai could see dark shapes descending from the sky vessels, resembling obsidian shards cutting through the atmosphere. "What can I do?" he asked. Arya turned to him, determination hardening her features. "The sanctuary has defenses, but they require coordination. I need your help." She guided him to a secondary console where crystal interfaces rose to meet his hands. The technology responded to his touch, though less fluidly than with Arya. "Focus your thoughts on protection," she instructed. "The system will read your intent." Kai closed his eyes, concentrating, as he'd never done before. He felt a strange connection forming between his mind and the sanctuary's systems. Images flashed through his consciousness. Ancient battles, defensive formations, energy shields. Outside the first of the Shadower ships landed. Black figures emerged, their forms shifting like smoke given solid form. They moved toward the sanctuary with singular purpose. "They're coming," Kai warned, watching as the creatures tested the outer perimeter. "I know." Arya replied, her hands still, working the controls. "The primary defenses are activating." The ground around the sanctuary erupted with light energy barriers forming concentric rings around the structure. The Shadowers hissed as they encountered the first barrier, their smoky forms recoiling. "It won't hold them for long," Arya said grimly. "We need to initiate the core shield." She moved to Kai, taking his hands and placing them alongside hers on the central crystal. "Our combined energy is stronger. Join your mind with mine." Their consciousness merged in a rush of sensation. Kai felt Arya's thoughts, her memories, her fear, and beneath it all, her growing feelings for him. Together they channeled their energy into the sanctuary systems. The central crystal blazed, with light sending a pulse that expanded outward. The Shadowers shrieked as the wave hit them, their forms temporarily disrupted. "It's working!" Kai exclaimed. Arya's expression remained tense. "Temporarily. We need a more permanent solution. They'll return with greater numbers." She turned to him, her silver eyes intense. "There's only one way to ensure they never find this place again. We must redirect their attention." "How?" "Your ship," she said quietly. "If we overload its power core, it will create an energy signature so powerful they will be drawn to it instead." Kai understood immediately. A decoy, a trap. Arya nodded. "But it means destroying your only way home." Their eyes met in the glow of the crystal understanding passing between them. Without hesitation, Kai made his decision. Do it. Between two worlds. The explosion lit up the alien sky like a second sun, the Shadowers abandoning their assault on the sanctuary to investigate the massive energy surge. As Arya had predicted, they were drawn to the ship's destruction, leaving the sanctuary temporarily safe. Kai stood at the edge of a crystalline cliff, watching as the last remnants of his vessel burned in the distance. With it went his last connection to Earth. "I'm sorry," Arya said, joining him, her hand finding his. "You sacrificed your way home." "I made a choice," he replied, turning to her. "The right one." In the days that followed, they strengthened the sanctuary's defenses, Arya teaching Kai the intricacies of Nemorian technology. Their work brought them closer each moment, deepening the bond between them. One evening as they sat beneath the bioluminescent canopy of the forest, Arya shared her most guarded secret. "There is a way," she said hesitantly, "a way for you to return to Earth if you wished." Kai looked at her, surprised. "How?" "The sanctuary contains technology capable of creating dimensional rifts. It's how my people once traveled between worlds before the Shadowers came." She paused. "I could open a pathway for you." The possibility hung between them, Kai's expression thoughtful. "Why tell me this now?" he asked. Arya's skin glowed with emotion, patterns of light revealing her inner turmoil. "Because choice matters. Because holding you here against your will would be wrong, even if—" She hesitated. "Even if I wish you would stay." Kai reached for her, drawing her close. "I have nothing waiting for me on Earth. No family, no real connections. But your world. Your species," Arya whispered. "Don't you miss them?" "I've found something here I never had there," Kai replied, his hand gently tracing the patterns of light on her arm. "Connection, purpose." He paused, looking into her silver eyes. "Love." The word seemed to illuminate Arya from within her, glow intensifying. "Is that what this is? This feeling?" "I think it transcends worlds, languages, species," Kai said softly. "But yes, I believe it is." Their lips met in a kiss that bridged the vast differences between their kinds, Arya's skin shimmering, with cascades of light that enveloped them both. The forest around them seemed to respond, plants glowing brighter, as if celebrating this impossible union. When they finally parted, Arya rested her head against his chest. "Stay. Not because you're stranded, but because you choose to." "I already have," Kai replied. "But perhaps someday we could visit Earth together, show your face to my world, prove we're not alone in the universe." Arya smiled, a plan forming in her mind. The sanctuary contains seeds of Nemorian knowledge waiting to be shared. Perhaps that was always its purpose, not just preservation but connection between worlds. As twin moons rose over the horizon, casting silver light across the alien landscape, two figures stood embraced. At the threshold of the sanctuary, human and Nemorian, their silhouettes merging into one. Their story was just beginning, written not in the stars they came from, but in the space between their hearts where differences faded, and only love remained. A love that would someday bridge two worlds and change the destiny of both their kinds forever.